Welcome back everybody. As per usual, it's R60 here. With the recent dev server, we saw the addition of the Mig-29M Fulcrum E, which is possibly one of the most influential and most overlooked upgrades of the legendary Mig-29. Now before we dive into this, I want to give a disclaimer. I have done extensive research into this aircraft, however I could very well get things incorrect, so if you have knowledge on something that I may have gotten wrong or something I missed, feel free to drop it in the comments. Anyways, let's get to the video. To understand the Mig-29M, you have to understand that this variant of the aircraft wasn't just a midlife upgrade. This was a fundamental redesign of the Fulcrum that turned it from a point defense interceptor into a true multi-role fighter that Russia wanted. The original Mig-29 was originally designed in the 1970s as a short-range tactical fighter. It had a simple job: get airborne fast, hunt down NATO fighters and bombers close to the front line, and win high-speed close-quarter knife fights. It was a phenomenal dogfighter, but had limitations, significant limitations. A short range, a basic avionics suit, and limited air-to-ground capability. The Mig-29M, known by the NATO codename Fulcrum E, was Mikoyan's answer to these limitations. The M stands for
Модифицированный.
or modified. Sorry, I was not going to butcher that word. But that word is a massive understatement. The Mig-29M was less of an upgrade and more of a complete modernization of the airframe, creating what was essentially a new aircraft. Think of it as the difference between a classic car and a modern resto mod, where they've swapped out the engine, electronics, and suspension, while keeping the iconic body more than less the same. The core philosophy behind the M was to transform the Fulcrum from a specialized interceptor into a versatile multi-role fighter, capable of dominating the skies day or night and striking targets on the ground with precision-guided weapons while maintaining some resemblance of air superiority. Let's dive in some of the backstory history of the Mig-29M. The story of the Mig-29M is a classic tale of Soviet ambition running headfirst into post-Soviet reality. The project began in the mid-1980s. The Soviet military was seeing the West move towards more versatile fighters like the F-16s, which could excel in both air-to-air and air-to-ground missions. They knew their Fulcrum needed to evolve if it was going to remain competitive on the export market and meet future threats. So, Mikoyan's engineers went to work. They redesigned the airframe, removing the large vertical fins under the fuselage that were a hallmark of the earlier Mig-29s. They enlarged the leading-edge root extensions, or the lurks, which improved airflow and agility at high angles of attack. These changes gave the jet a cleaner, more aggressive look, but the real magic was on the inside. They replaced the old analog vacuum tube-based avionics with a digital fly-by-wire control system and a suite of new solid-state electronics. This was a massive leap forward for Soviet aircraft. The project was progressing well, with prototypes flying in the late 1980s, but then in 1991 the Soviet Union collapsed. The funding dried up almost overnight. The once powerful Soviet military was gone, replaced by a cash-strapped Russian military that couldn't afford to put a brand new high-tech fighter into production. So, what do you do when your primary customer goes bankrupt? You take your advanced product to the international market. The Mig-29M was showcased at air shows around the world as the Super Fulcrum, a premium export version for any country that wanted top-tier performance without the price tag of the brand new Western design. This led to the next chapter of its story. The Mig-29M technology and airframe design became the foundation for a new family of export jets, most notably the Mig-29 SMT and the navalized Mig-29K for India's aircraft carriers. While the M itself never entered mass production for Russia, its DNA lives on in most modern Fulcrums flying today, including the MiG-35. So, what made the Mig-29M such a leap forward? Let's break down its key capabilities, the part everybody's been waiting for. The Mig-29M was powered by a pair of Klimov RD-33K engines. These were significantly more powerful than the original RD-33s, each producing around 18,000 pounds of thrust with an afterburner. This gave the M a much better thrust-to-weight ratio, improving its acceleration, climb rate, and overall performance. Critically, these engines were also smokeless, removing the black smoke trail that made earlier Fulcrums so easy to spot visually. Next, we have an all-digital cockpit. This was a game-changer for the Mig-29M. The Mig-29M introduced a glass cockpit. The old dial instruments were replaced with multifunction displays. It got a new, more powerful Zuk-M radar, which was a coherent pulse Doppler system that was more reliable and had a better look-down, shoot-down capability. allowing it to engage targets flying against cluttered ground backgrounds more reliably than the older radars. It also had a modern infrared search and track system, and a helmet-mounted sight like all the other MiG-29s, allowing the pilot to cue missiles to targets just by looking at them. This was a massive upgrade in situational awareness and combat effectiveness that most of MiG-29s originally lacked. Next up, we have the Arsenal, or the wider arsenal of the MiG-29. The original MiG-29 was primarily armed with the R-73 Archer and the R-27 air-to-air missiles. The M expanded this arsenal significantly. It could carry the advanced R-77 Adder active radar missile, giving it a true BVR fire and forget capability comparable to the earlier AMRAAMs. It could also carry 8 of them, which was a small but significant upgrade from the previous generation MiG-29s with R-77 capabilities. The Mig-29M was also able to carry the R-77-1. But the biggest change was its air-to-ground capability. The Mig-29M could carry a huge range of unguided bombs, rockets, and most importantly, precision-guided munitions like laser-guided bombs and TV-guided missiles, like the KH-29T and the KH-31P anti-radiation missiles. This transformed the aircraft into a potent strike fighter while still maintaining its dogfighting and air superiority capabilities. Finally, we have the enhanced airframe and fuel. The airframe changes I mentioned earlier weren't just for look. Removing the ventral fins and cleaning up the design reduced drag and weight. The internal fuel capacity was also increased, giving the MiG-29M a much needed combat radius boost, addressing one of the biggest weaknesses of the original Fulcrum. It could also carry conformal fuel tanks under the fuselage for even longer range missions. In essence, the MiG-29 was a 4th generation fighter that could do it all. Fight its way into the target zone, drop precision ordnance, and fight its way out all day or night in any weather. It truly was the Russian F-16 counterpart the MiG-29 aimed to be all those years ago. So, the MiG-29M, a project that was technically a failure for its original customer, but a massive success in the long run. It represents a pivotal what if in aviation history. A what if the Soviet Union hadn't fallen, but more importantly, it represents the evolution of a design, proving that even a specialized dogfighter can be reborn as a lethal multi-role platform. Its legacy is carried forward by the MiG-29 SMT, the Mig-29K, and the latest MiG-35, all of which owe their existence to the groundbreaking work done on the MiG-29M. It's a fascinating aircraft that bridges the gap between the Cold War and modern era, a true super fulcrum that was just a little bit ahead of its time. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, consider hitting that like and sub button. It's free and it means a lot to me. Also, consider joining the Discord down below. It's in the description. With that being said, I will see you all in the next video. This is R60. Peace out.